Is it necessary to attend?
I can turn the camera.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dear distinguished professors, colleagues, and participants, great you with all due respect. Welcome to the subsequent session of our workshop. The chair of our workshop today will be me, Iris Karaca from University of Massachusetts, Chen Medical School, and Yudong San from the University of Manchester. Our technical assistant is Shiva Rahmani from University of Basilicata, who will kindly be assisting us today. Thank you all. The first speech we are going to listen to is on the paper entitled The Role of Spatial Proximity and Urban Functions, Density in the Sport Mega Events by Martina Sinatra, Ginevra Ballatto, Giuseppe Brosto, and Francesco Secchi. Over to you, please.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Again, good morning, everybody. I'm Martina Sinatra, and I'm a PhD student from University of Cagliari. Today, I will present the work done in collaboration with Professors Ginevra Balletto and Giuseppe Borruso, and with the administrator of MLab, which is Francesco Secchi, that provides co-financing my scholarship. So the sports mega events, the theme of the sports mega events, it's one theme most important. What are the sports mega events? Are large scale events that involve many spectators, participants, and organizers. The assessment of accessibility and the related management of people, public and private vehicles flow for stadiums during sports mega events is a major challenge for mobility management and for the containment of environmental interferences in order to ensure safety and health for the local community. In the Italian context, there is a lack of a collaborative convergence between the technical scientific community and the Italian National Olympic Committee, which refers to a regulation that is obsolete for accessibility. Thus, highlight the need for an improvement and an adaptation to the current needs, of course. In addition, the increased community awareness of the crucial importance of sustainable mobility, energy efficiency, and the reduction of air pollution, also motivated by the 2030 Agenda objectives, highlights the need for a gradual change in the lifestyle of the communities themselves. So the aim of this paper is to evaluate and compare a functional urban area proximity index, which I will call FUAPI, for the different stadiums of the national territory, in particular for the 11 stadiums candidates for the European Football Championships 2032. This allows to represent a picture of ex-ante scenarios which play a role in the definition of the urban planning and transport mobility action for sports mega events organizations. After the crisis following the COVID-19 pandemics, many studies have focused on this theme, in particular on the enhancement of urban society and services closely related to the residents. In fact, these services are designed to ensure that everything you require daily can be reached within a 15-20 minutes walk. Spatial proximity has enabled the generation and the consolidation of a proximity of neighborhood relations, the so-called 50-minute city. As I said before, the theme of sport mega events is complex, in particular in relation to the effects that they can have on space and communities. In fact, most of the sports mega events take place inside the stadiums, which are located in urban context, with the consequent impact on the local communities. They play a fundamental role in the organization and the success of the event itself. In fact, stadiums not only host competition, but they also offer integrated services and facilities to handle the large number of participants. Stadiums were born as factory of sporting events, but have developed on the one hand with the evolution of the sport, and in the other one with the growing interest in sports, supporting through the link between the sponsor and media, but also as a consequence of the sports businesses industry. To ensure the safety and the health of the community, sustainable mobility must contain environmental interference like noise, air pollution, one. An important challenge in the sport events organization, but also it is important the management of vehicular and pedestrian flow with a special focus on the management of accessibility. The difficulty with assessing it arises from taking into account not only the average time for individual stages of the journey to access the stadium, but also to the level of congestion and traffic regulation system, which is closely related to the spatial settlement model. The method I will present today is an advance of research previously carried out by the authors, and the aim of the previous research was to develop a proximity index based on the distribution of the resident population, spatial proximity, and accessibility, which could support the planning of sports mega events. In this work, the method has been improved, and the aim is to develop a methodological approach that allow the construction of a functional urban area proximity index (FUAPI), based on the distribution of the local residential community and the density of the elements to which certain urban functions are attributed, and we identified it through the functional urban area subunits. The point that a model in particular was transformed into a three-dimensional continuous density surface by using the so-called kernel density estimation function. Therefore, the functional urban area proximity index represents the sum of the kernel density estimation area performed on the different function of the ETH dataset and the spatial proximity, all multiplied by the weight, Wi. Specifically, Ki can be described by the ratio between the area obtained through the kernel density estimation of the ETH dataset and the spatial proximity, which is the buffer area with a radius of 1,500 meters, calculated by the service from which the attractiveness is evaluated. Instead, as we can see, the weight Wa A can be expressed as the difference of the resident population within the spatial proximity area and the population living in the functional urban area it analyzed or related to the population of spatial proximity. So the FUAPI index provides an indication of the current situation of the proximity area from which the attractiveness of the service is assessed. So it will give us an ex ante scenario. To assess the scenario that will occur following the performance of a SME or a sport mega event, it was evaluated in percentage terms the relationship between the people who could attract the event and the resident population within the spatial proximity. And we define it as carry capacity. In fact, the table shows the different scenarios for FUAPI and carry capacity. As I said before, the case study is focused on the 11 cities that will host European Football Championships in 2032. In particular, the study area is therefore represented by the Italian cities candidated to host them, which are Bari, Cagliari, Bologna, Florence, Genoa, Milan, Naples, Palermo, Rome, Turin, and Verona. Italy submitted its candidacy for hosting matches in its stadium, and in this table we can see which are the demographic statistics for metropolitan cities, except for Verona, which is not a metropolitan city, and the information about the urban administrative fabric and the relative capacity of the stadiums. The dataset used in this manuscript consists of a different layer. In particular, it's composed from Urban Atlas Copernicus, which provides functional urban area. Specifically from this dataset, it was possible to extract information about the urban fabric. The second data set that was used is the permanent census of the population in housing. This data set was useful to identify the resident population for different land use classes. We choose to use it because Copernicus dataset provides already a population estimate, but the permanent census of the population is a more recent data. As we can see in the figure, for the geospatial representation, the city that presents the most significant results were chosen. The first one selected is the city of Bari, which turned out to have a FUAPI, of level 3, so it was the lowest one. The second city selected is Verona, which has an high FUAPI level 1, even though is as I said before, it is not a metropolitan city. The following geospatial representation illustrates the difference between kernel density estimation and the spatial proximity. In particular, as regards the analysis of kernel density estimation, it was used a quadratic kernel density with a radius of 500 meters. and it was applied for these parameters: sports and leisure facilities, continuous urban fabric, discontinuous dense and medium density urban fabric, discontinuous medium and low density urban fabric, discontinuous low density urban fabric, and finally industrial, commercial, public, military, and private units. So the analysis carried out on the candidate Italian cities to host the European Football Championships made it possible to obtain an functional urban area proximity index on the based on the distribution of the local resident community, as we said before. The density was calculated, as I said, the kernel density estimation function, and the summary of the results for the 11 cities are shown in the table. In particular, the cities that have an FUAPI level 1 scenarios are Genoa, Turin, Verona. Al FUAPI level 2 are Bologna, Cagliari, Milan, Naples, and Palermo, Rome and Florence, and the only city with a level 3 rating, as I said before, is Bari. For each scenario, we then proceed, as we will see, a set of policy. The analysis performed provides policy suggestion based on the score gained by the different cities considered in terms of the FUAPI index and carrying capacity. Cities like Genoa, Naples, Turin, and Verona do not need important public transport policies due to their configuration in terms of the sport facility and level of services. More relevant interventions are needed in Florence, Bologna, Milan, and Palermo, while the bottom of the table hosts Cagliari and Rome that need harder policies but still realizable. Bari, given its score, will be excluded from the selection for the Euro 2032. In conclusion, the present research was aimed at developing, as I said, this index based on an interdisciplinary approach combining the 50-minute city paradigm, the spatial distribution of the population, and the concentration of urban function. As discussed, the focus was the area of the Italian city candidate to football championships to 2032, assuming a buffer zone of approximately 50 minutes around the interferences around the stadium and the density also and the density of the residents also near the stadium, but also the urban services. The objective for future research is to continue in this line, but also using the triple access planning dataset, which is based on the urban accessibility, which can be achieved through the tram-zone system, which is physical mobility, the territorial system, which is identified like spatial proximity, and the telecommunication system, as they call it, digital connectivity. In fact, the point that we will explore more in the future is the digital connectivity. Because it has become an integral part of daily life, as important for community, but also for businesses in the connection to service network, and therefore relevant in urban planning. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation. The presented paper is concerned with the sport mega events, and the authors develop a functional urban area index in 2023, which enables the representation ex ante scenarios based on the spatial distribution of the local community and the density of urban functions. Would anyone like to pose a question about this paper and presentation, please? I would also like to ask one question relatedly. Are there other applicability opportunities for the functional urban area index in topics other than megasports organizations?
Yes, yes, we would like to expand the team because we would like to. This is a methodological approach that we developed, and we would use functional urban areas not only for sports mega events, but also like for university services like health services. So it will be expand.
Okay. What are the limitations of this synthetic framework scheme you have proposed?
The limitation is the spatial proximity area because we choose a buffer area, but we would modifying it through. We do not want only a circle, but we would improve it on the urban context. So it's just a primary spatial proximity area.
Okay, thank you very much
Thank you.
for your presentation. Thank you. Okay, please. We have one question.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for your presentation. I have a question following up on the previous one about the limitations. Do you think, because you're using population data from 2018?
I cannot hear you.
Maybe if you come closer.
Oh, so this doesn't.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me now?
Say yes.
Okay. See, it's fine. So you said you were using data from 2018, population data from 2018. So, do you think it would be a limitation for your study that you are looking onto the UEFA 2032?
Yes, but
which is
Copernicus.
almost 15 years, sorry, which is almost 15 years after.
Yes. Copernicus will update the data every 6 years. So this it's just an we need to understand which is the ex ante scenario to help organize them. So even if it's for like 6 year data set, I think it will be useful. But because Copernicus has update every 6 year the data set, it will be possible to do the analysis to this year with the data when they will be available. So I think it will not an limitation.
Yeah, exactly. But what I was thinking more about is that usually in the central parts of the city, or maybe
Yes.
around big arenas or sporting venues, you're not really going to have a large population change, but you are going to have some change.
But
I don't know.
I can I can say that like in Cagliari City, there will be a change because they will be constructed a new stadium, and there will be a regeneration of the urban area next to the stadium. So they will create more residential places, and the population could be increased.
Okay, yeah.
So it's as I said before, it's just to understand the ex ante scenario, but to understand the ex post scenario, it is useful the correct capacity index.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, dear participants, we can proceed our workshop with the next presentation on a paper whose title is Critical Interpretation of SDGs Strategies at Regional Scale. Are there more important goals for Italy? Written by Anna Riccioli, Michela Pezzagano, and Ginevra Balotto. You may start
Okay.
your presentation, please.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, I'm starting the presentation, and please check if you are able to see our screen. Wait a moment. Wait.
Okay.
Are you able to see it? Okay. Hello to everybody. Good afternoon and good morning for the guys who are here in Italy. And I'm Michelle Pezzagno, and I'm presenting this research, I can call it research exercise. I'm coordinating a research center on to support the Agenda 2030 development. And as a research group, we are working on the 2030 Agenda accountability since 2016. During our research journey, we understand that there is a strong research gap on this topic, especially on what we are measuring and what we want to measure and monitor, and how we measure and monitor the success of the agenda. This paper is focused on the critical interpretation of Italian regional strategies on sustainable development. I wanted to give you a little introduction of these topics because we are working on it for a long time. And what happened after the signature of the ONU Agenda 2030 was that in most European countries, the implementation at the national level has been supported and facilitating through the promotion of national and regional strategies for sustainable development. Globally, each country has contributed to defining the indicators for measuring the Sustainable Development Goals, defining also the official monitoring bodies. So we tried to understand how to monitor the agenda and how to measure it. We are now in a phase where the countries are organizing and doing voluntary reviews to adjust the trajectories of individual states and regions in their alignment with common goals of the agenda. Also, European Union has recently, last year, reviewed his alignment with the United Nations goals. The voluntary reviews highlight the challenge, often highlight the challenge of reaching the lower levels of the territorial chain. In Italy, for example, it's really difficult to fully engage local levels that are composed or involving small municipalities. If we give a look to the academic debate on implementing the Agenda 2030, we discovered that this academic debate is really rich, but it is often focused on vertical interpretation of individual goals. So we suffer of our research silos, I can see, I can tell, and we lose the agenda holistic vision, which seeks a balance among economic, environmental, and social policies. And this is a problem. From our literature review, we have done a small literature review of the last 5 years. We focused on sustainable development policies, and we found out 179 papers that are talking about more or less on this topic, but only 65 papers were considered aligned with an holistic vision of the agenda. The other papers primarily focused on individual goals or on specific targets and the problem of reaching a specific result related to a topic. Therefore, a limited number of scholars are engaging with the interdisciplinary values connected with the agenda. This is in the interdisciplinary vision, from our point of view, is really crucial to bridge the gap between theoretical and applied studies and to help our territory and our world in developing strategies to solve the problem related to agenda. Finally, only 10 papers were able to provide strategic perspective on the agenda and also on the impacts and the ability of the agenda in impacting our territories. Which is our research topic, which is our research exercise. In order to bridge this research gap from the theoretical to the applied studies on the Agenda 2030, our research investigates the opportunity provided by the critical use of measuring tools proposed by the European Union, and our research attempts to apply them within the Italian context, which is our point of view. There is a growing number of research tools that allow us to easily compare countries, regions, but are we able to use, are we able to understand and support the changing of the trajectories related to regional strategies? Therefore, the case studies propose an integrated analysis comparing the Italian regional strategies for sustainable development, and after I will explain why we focused on regional strategies, and the economic indicators, development indicators of the regions. The analysis aims to understand what is going on in Italy and which are the challenges between the goals outlined in the regional sustainable development strategies and the territorial economies. This critical assessment can be useful to understand if the regional strategies require a specific support, for example, such as incentivizing mechanisms at the national or at community levels to achieve real effective and real implementation. In this slide, you can see a selection of European tools for SDG mapping. As underlined in the previous slide, there is a growing number of platforms that allow to compare countries, and also European Union has recently established and suggested several official data platforms to support the community policy monitoring and the agenda accountability. So we have to measure our solution, our impacts in the same way and together. These tools assist countries in analyzing the consistency between the agenda adopted by different member states and the community policy. Measurement platform are also in place for comparing progress among European region member states with ongoing reviews aimed at enhancing measurement of progress towards the SDGs within the European countries and the United Nations. So we have now the technology to compare the different regions and the different countries and verify if we are measuring, if we are impacting in the same way on the agenda. In our case study, two different European tools were used for a comparative reading. The first one is the RCE interactive tool, and this tool is not strictly related to the Agenda 2030. This index is provided by a European platform and is an interesting KPI composed by sub-indices and pillars, and it measures the ability of a region to provide an attractive and sustainable environment for firms and residents to live and work. In our exercise of critical reflection, we decided to focus only on on three pillars, the one bordered in yellow, that are institution, labor market, and technological readiness. These three pillars are useful to identify the obstacle that regional sustainable development strategies may face, revealing potential constraints on its implementation. Institution pillar assesses the quality and the efficiency of the institution. Labor market pillar provides a crucial indicator of a region economic development. Efficient and flexible labor markets contribute to effective and to the effective allocation of resources. And technological readiness pillars measure the extent to which households and enterprises are using and adopting existing technology. So our transition must be supported by technological readiness. The second SDG map platform is SDG Mapper, and you can find it on JRC platform, and it's called No SDGs platform. And this JRC study enable user to dynamically map documents specifically focused on SDGs. This mapping tool presents the possibility to use an SDG reference tracker that enumerates a direct reference to 2030 agenda discovered in the upload documents. And this tracker also is able also to trace the reference related to specific targets. All Italian existing regional strategies were analyzed using this supported by these two tools. Why we focus on Italian region? The national strategies for sustainable development in Italy represents the action framework in promoting a harmonized development, focusing on economic, social, and environmental aspects. Why regional strategies for sustainable development define each region contribution for achieving the goals. Be aware of this. Being aware of this, we know that regional strategies permeates all regional sectors in order to build, guide, and to define regional policies and actions. In Italy, regions play a key role in boosting the success of the Italia Agenda 2030. So we decided to focus on regions. I wanted to present the results of our exercise. Presenting the results, we must underline that RC index for all Italian region is lower than the European average. And this is a crucial point, and we must be aware. The only one exception is represented by Region Lombardy, that is the one in green. If we focus on the pillars we selected from the RCI, we can see that the selected pillars can significantly vary in values within the regions that are in the same RC range. This is important to understand that inside the same range, regions has different abilities and different problems. This type of analysis clearly highlights the awareness on labor market and technological readiness that is needed by each region to implement sustainable development strategy and to effectively promote innovative and creative processes, as well as the capacity need that is needed to provide a response to the required investment, including the institutional ones. The second slide of the result I want to show you is the output from SDG Mapper, the use of the SDG Mapper tools that has been clusterized according to the RCE score groups. In the first chart in dark violet represents the southern regions of Italy and the island that are the less developed. In this case, Campania and Sardinia are predominantly focused on goal 11, that is the one of related to cities and urban development, but this region has a weakness in both institutional aspects and labor market, while Puglia and Sicily and Molise has a more heterogeneous strategies. The second chart in light violet represents regions that are considered in transition, and all strategies of these regions focus on goal 11, but there is a growing interest in other goals that are the goal 8, 15, and 13. In this case, labor market is significantly higher, so the problems are different. The third chart in pink represents regions closer to the European average, with a higher level of development in terms of GDP. These strategies, as you can see, are not only focused on goal 11, but the attention on goals 11, 13, but also on goals 8, 3, 4, and 15 is growing. And in this case, the region have a high labor market score. We can affirm that less developed regions mainly prioritize the urban dimension. Transition regions place a greater emphasis on goals associated with environmental themes like climate change, life on land, and water. Additionally, transitioning regions has a growing interest on how quality of life, well-being, and education are influenced by green transition of the production system. All the Italian regions and all the Italian regional strategies are totally weak on goals 16 and 17. That seems to be, on our point of view, really strategic to implement all the foreseen action by the regions. Finally, from our point of view, through this exercise, it's clear that more developed regions perform better than the transition regions and the less developed regions in all components of RCE index. But we must be aware of it while we support Italian region as universities to promote strategic development policies. The most common obstacles to achieving SDGs at regional level regard the discontinuity, the total discontinuity of public policies on sustainable development, and there is an insufficient awareness on the problems. There is a lot of work to do in relation to dissemination of research results and the possibilities we have to solve problems and support green transition. There is a general lack of coordination across various governance levels and policy departments, stressed by limited financial resources, and governance problem is completely and totally undervalued by regions, together with emerging managing issues related to interdisciplinary approach needed to reach the common goals of the 2030 Agenda. The general deficiency in the capacity to track the indicators and establish strong connection can be overcome using the different existing tools, also the one provided by United Nations and the European Union. European Union tools for Italy can be particularly useful because they can allow regions to easy and objective compare the strategy. These comparisons are fundamental to support our capacity building at both Italian and also at cross-country regional level, for example, in relation to the Mediterranean countries, and boost synergy among the regions. Therefore, monitor common tools are welcome from our point of view, and they must be used in a critical way. They serve to better understand the problems and of a specific territory in relation to its environment, its society, and its economy. A further perspective, from my personal point of view, this research with the next step of this research can be a focus on the Mediterranean regional areas. That is a wider areas that include Greece, Balkans, Spain, France, and to better understand which can be the impact of this territory on the agenda. Thank you.
Focused on the significance of the sustainable development goals, which are important for the global context as well as for the national and regional domains. The findings of the study can be a stimulating basis for assessing the correlation in the Italian regions between RCAI, RCCD, and a set of the sub-indices L of RCI of basic efficiency and innovation. Would anyone like to ask a question, please? Okay, let me kindly ask a question. What are the key properties of holistic vision in your cases, considering sustainability and planning for future? What are the advantages and limitations, if any, of this vision?
I hear you really in a bad way. So please, can you repeat in a little louder?
Okay. What are the key properties? Are you hearing me? Okay. What are the key properties of holistic vision in your cases, considering sustainability and planning for future?
Considering
advantages and limitations, if any, of this vision?
I'm not sure I understand, really understand the question.
Okay.
The advantages of monitoring in the same way the agenda is that what we want to underline that if we measure and monitor the strategies in the same way, we are able to redesign the trajectories and to update the strategy without losing our common goals related to an holistic vision of the agenda that is a global vision, not only focused on Italy or only on one region. The other aspect is that the strategies must be tailor-made in relation to a territory, because the economical problems that a territory face and the RC index explain it in a very clear way. If we haven't got technological readiness inside the territory, how we can apply the strategy? That is, if the strategy is focused, for example, on the productive transition sector. Okay, this is the first thing I can tell you. The reality is that a lot of European and also global documents underline that the countries are not measuring the same things, and the same they are not using the same indicator to measure things. And this is a problem, because if you measure a thing from only your perspective, you don't know how you impact on the others.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers and your presentation. Okay, next presentation is entitled Cold Ironing and Analysis of Policies and its Implementation in Europe, with a focus on the Italian context and the future prospect in Sardinia, with the co-author Stefano Carboni and Brunella Brundu. You may kindly start, please, if everything is settled and ready.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stefano Carboni, PhD student at the University of Sassari, and currently PhD visiting at the University of Oxford. Now let me share the slides. Okay. Let me know if you can see the slides.
Okay. Okay.
Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So I worked on this research together with the professor Brunella Brundu, professor at the University of Sassari, and in this analysis we focused on Sardinia. So I will start the presentation describing the key environmental policies for ports worldwide, and then starting introducing the cold ironing in Europe. I will present some ports of Italy, and then I will discuss the current state of cold ironing in the island. So the European Union strategy for sustainable and smart mobility, putting the European transport on the right path of the future, attributes 5% of the European GDP to the transport sector and employs around 10 million people. However, the importance represented by the growth and the structure of mobility over time is increasingly bordered by its costs arising from social, environmental, and therefore also economic, which contribute to the expression in increasingly strengthening policies in favor of sustainability, circularity, and environmental protection. So the European Union strategy is a useful tool in pursuing the goals of the European Green Deal, which aim to convert European Union into a just and prosperous society with a modern, resource-efficient and competitive economy, without generating greenhouse gas emission from 2050. However, European Environment Agency states that emissions have been increasing over the past 30 years, contrary to the European Union goals. So now just some data related to the pollution prior to the study of cold ironing, in order to better understand its importance. So the environmental report of the European Maritime and Transport, published by the European Environmental Agency, stated that 77% of European foreign train and 35% of train between European member states occurs across the sea, thus representing the main international supply chain. So in terms of greenhouse gas emission, maritime and transport is reckoned third among the means of transport with the highest emission, with 13.5%, while air transport with 14.4% and road transport, which represent 71% of the total gas emissions. So the European ports policies should consider additional projects for a more significant reduction in port emission. This report includes several opportunities that can be adopted in order to reduce the emissions, which include the use of shore power supply, which involves turning off the engines when ships are docked in the port. So going to check the overview of Italy, we found that Italy Port Logistics Network has 58 ports and 24 interports, and the country is the second largest in Europe, where the first one is the Netherlands, for the movement of goods by sea. The recovery plan Next Generation European Union has adopted a recovery fund of 750 billion to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. The program, which supports various activities, is divided into strategic access and missions, and a more specific objective to mobility and ports whose sustainability, intermodality, and climate change resilience and energy efficiency is concerned with. At this core, the Green Ports projects aims to make port activity sustainable, port activity compatible with urban context and efficiency, and the reduction of energy consumption and port facility and activity. And in this map, it shows the 47 Italian ports dedicated to electrification. So given the complexity of the cold iron infrastructure, has been defined a strategy based on 6 pillars provided in the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, the so-called PNRR. The port identification, availability of electricity power and capacity, reform of the authorization process, electric tariff, type of ships, and supply chain management. The PNRR also states the importance of the implementation of a reform for the simplification of authorization procedures for cold ironing facilities, and considers projects intended to the construction of works and facilities for the electrification of ports to be public utility and characterized by indifference and urgency. So in the article, we investigated into the environmental impact of cold ironing and its implementation in Europe and in Italy, in order to understand the current status of future prospect of this policy. The first and successful implementation of cold ironing can be traced back to about 20 years ago in Alaska, where energy costs were lower than in Europe. The latter is a continent where the development of cold iron occurred only in the recent years and only in few ports. The implementation of cold ironing policies in Europe, in fact, is mainly observed in the port of Gothenburg in Sweden. Other policies have been also combined in these ports, which have made it possible to further mitigate port emissions. And port collaborative decision-making was implemented, which is a practice that power dock ships, and it allows for a reduction of greenhouse gas emission. And so in the map of this figure, it shows 5 ports with red icons along the city of Gothenburg, which have adopted cold ironing policies. So in the process of electrification of the docks, where tanker moored in Gothenburg has initiated a project called Green Cable, which, in collaboration with different stakeholders, including shipping companies, national ports, and European ports, aim to establish a new goal standard for shore power for tanks berth in national ports. The environmental benefits following the electrification of Gothenburg ports can be quantified as a reduction of 1,800 tons of carbon dioxide per year, compared to when the tankers used their diesel power engine while at berth. The Port of Gothenburg is a pioneer in offering coastal energy in Europe and aims to create a new structure at the energy terminal to ensuring safety in the space that houses the electrical equipment. So this project was partially financed by the Swedish government through the Climate Investment Support Program with around 1 million euros. It is also part of the Gothenburg Port Authority project, in which approximately 60 million euros were financed by Sweden to be able to implement emission mitigation measures by 2030. And this port is therefore promoting cold ironing through the collaboration with various stakeholders and through the provision of public incentives. The Gothenburg Port Authority is a driving force for the sustainable of the city port, and it plays an important role in achieving the global sustainable development goals dedicated by the European Union. And this port thus paves the way for the sustainable environmental sustainable ports through the innovative solution reported in this paper, which should lead to substantial CO2 reduction in the port area. So the implementation of cold ironing in the Italian context has been developed in several ports, including the Ancona port and Venice. So the cruise terminal of Venice is one of the main ports in the Mediterranean region and accommodates a substantial part of maritime traffic, and it's mainly composed of cruise ships. This map shows the cruise terminal of Venice, in which it has been established the cold ironing policies. In a recent study of Ricci, the analysis focused on the technical and economic aspects of Port of Venice and pays particular attention to the reduction of emission and attributes the high energy consumption to cruise ships to onboard equipment. This research proposed different scenarios to deal with this type of emissions, one of which requires the reassignment of ships to the docks, moving the mooring to the most polluting ships in the Isonzo and Tagliamento basins, a condition that requires an overall reconfiguration of ship mooring. Furthermore, a new research of Pasetto and Giacomello has collected data from the Port of Venice area and performed a multi-criteria analysis using the analytic hierarchy process, after which it was possible to suggest that the optimal solution for the Port of Venice in order to reduce the maritime solution would be the implementation of a port which would be connected to both the Monte Sindial terminal and to the port of Padua via rail shuttle train service. Furthermore, their study shows that the implementation of cold ironing in the Port of Venice also requires constant review by port authorities and could improve maritime trade for both the city of Venice and nearby cities, particularly Padua, Treviso, and Rovigo. And this is in line with the improvement and development of the ports outlined by the PNRR, which also provides fundings for the construction of new maritime infrastructure. So regarding to the concrete implementation of cold ironing policies, the Northern Adriatic Sea Port System Authority is responsible for promoting the Sustainable Investment Program and has submitted a request for an agreement with the SOGESID of the Ministry of Infrastructure and Sustainable Mobility of Italy, which granted which is granted on 21st February 2022. Then on 3rd March, an agreement is signed between to regulate the provision of services aimed at implementing the intervention. Based on the agreement obtained, Sogesid will provide technical support for the cold ironing project of the port areas of Maghera and Venice, whose total amount is more than 1 million euros. Now moving to the port of Ancona, and as shown in these figures, is located along the Italian Adriatic coast and serves as the main logistic hub of the Central Adriatic region. In the study of Esposito, 3 different cold ironing application scenarios were tested between the port of Ancona. Through the environmental analysis, emissions within the ports were then analyzed and compared. The results of this study show a reduction of emission in all 3 scenarios. The first one involves the implementation of a so-called cogeneration plant, which will start the electrification of the docks serving mooring in this port. In such a manner, a more significant reduction in emission was achieved compared to the other 2 scenarios. The reduction conducted is in fact equal to more than 98% for nitrogen oxides, 79% for PM10, and 100% of sulfurous oxides. Therefore, the implementation of a cogeneration plant in port, as demonstrated in this research, mitigates the environmental impact and reduces the emission in the port area of Ancona. Now moving to the cold ironing in Sardinia. The importance of cold ironing in Sardinia is underlined by the PNRR 2022 report, Investments and Reform for the Ports, which aims to improve port energy supply at national level. Currently, the ports of Sardinia have recently enrolled a process of sustainable conversion of port systems through the publication of the cold ironing economic feasibility design for the construction and commissioning of shore power system for the electrical supply of ships moored in 6 Sardinian ports. This map shows the Sardinian ports marked in blue that actively implementing cold ironing policies, which are the port of Cagliari, named Porto Storico and Porto Canale, Olbia, Isola Bianca, then Golfo Aranci, Santa Teresa di Gallura, Porto Torres, and Porto Vesme. So these ports of Sardinia join the development of sustainable port systems in response to the example of the cold ironing policies implemented in the various ports of the European Union. So in this slide, I wanted to show the current amount of docks servicing in Sardinia, which ROPAX stands for roll-on, roll-off passenger ships. Now going through the list, in the total ports of Sardinia, which aims for cold ironing policies, include a total of 4 docks service cruise ships and 14 docks servicing ROPAC ships. So in this slide, show the amount of funding received for the assignment of architecture and engineering services related to the technical economic feasibility design inherent to the construction of commissioning of a non-shore power supply plant named cold ironing for the electrical supply of cruise ships and other type of ships in the previously mentioned Sardinian ports. So the facility invested by the project provided financing of more than 21 million euros for the port of Olbia, 2.4 million euros for Golfo Aranci, and 500,000 euros for Santa Teresa and Porto Vesme. Then almost 13 million for Porto Torres, and as regard of Cagliari, almost 21 million for Cagliari, Porto Storico, and the Ro-Ro terminal, and 12 million for Porto Canale. Furthermore, in terms of electrical and energy power for the plants advised by the project, it provides 22 megawatts of power for Olbia, 3 for Golfo Aranci, 0.6 for Santa Teresa and Porto Vesme, 15 megawatt for Porto Torres and 22 for Cagliari, Porto Storico and Ro-Ro Terminal, and 13 for Porto Canale. So the main objective of the onshore energy project in Sardinia is to supply energy to more ships through the installation of the shore-based electrical power system, which allows the ships' engines to be turned off with a consequent reduction of emission. The cold ironing, which is a practice that power dock ships via land-based electricity, has emerged as a promising solution to reduce greenhouse gas emission in the maritime sector. Given that the port of Gothenburg is seen as a pioneer of the cold ironing in Europe and can be taken as an example to implement the sustainable policy also in Sardinia, which is currently working on the technical and economic feasibility design for the creation of cold ironing system for the electrical supply of ships moored in these 6 ports. The implementation of cold ironing on this island represents an opportunity to contribute also to the global effort in reducing gas emissions and promoting the sustainable port systems. So with this last comment, I finish my presentation and thank you everyone for your attention.
Thank you for the presentation of your work, where the authors look into the policies and current state of cold ironing. The research shows the successful implementation of this method in Alaska 20 years ago, yet its development in Europe is recent and not widespread. The presentation is about the challenges regarding Italian landscape, including different electricity supply requirements and high electricity supply costs hinder the implementation of cold ironing, as well as important potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, which is a crucial global environmental problem. Would anyone like to pose a question, please, about this work and presentation? Okay, I would like to direct a question about your work. Are there any legal challenges as well as related to cold ironing implementation to your knowledge?
Well, as far as we know from our research, we didn't find any, let's say, legal wall that would, let's say, obstaculate the implementation of cold ironing in Sardinia. However, it's quite new, like the data that are provided in the table that I showed of Sardinia. They've been published just a few months ago. They were published on 2023. And these data were taken from the actual the application that the companies did when they applied for the fundings. So now, after the application, after the publication of the results, the companies will start the procedure in order to implement the cold ironing in Sardinia.
Okay. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you everyone.
Okay. Our next presentation in our workshop is for the paper entitled Mental Health News Coverage in Turkish National Newspapers with respect to episodic and thematic framing, a retrospective contents analysis, and Ahudari Dursun and Aslı Tunç. If you are ready, you may go ahead and present your paper, please.
Thank you. I am ready. Can you hear me and see me?
Yes.
Okay, let me share my slide. Good morning and good afternoon, esteemed participants. I am Ahudari Dursun from Istanbul, Turkey. Today, I will be delivering a presentation on our paper entitled Mental Health News Coverage in Turkish national newspapers with respect to episodic and thematic framing, a retrospective content analysis. Before moving on to the content and details of the paper, I would like to share with you the outline of my presentation first. In the introduction, I'm going to provide the objective of the study along with the background information on framing theory and coverage of mental health news. Next section is the material and methods, which is concerned with the mental health news data set used for the current paper, and methods including the textual news data analysis, as well as statistical frequency measurements. The third part provides the findings obtained as a result of experimental results and discussion. And the last part will be the concluding part, conclusion, as well as related future directions about our work. Okay, the news media, as we may assume, play impactful roles in shaping public attitudes regarding a broad range of issues, which also applies to matters that have to do with health, public health, and social awareness. Among the numerous health problems, mental health particularly is a personal and sensitive subject, and yet one of the critical ways to be more knowledgeable and conscious, as well as ensuring understanding, is through communicating about it. And about the coverage and portrayal of mental health, newspapers are still considered to be one of the most influential sources of information, as well as opinion on health, including mental health issues at the same time. Okay, now we can briefly dwell on the theoretical background regarding the study. Framing in communication describes the process in which certain aspects of an issue are emphasized while other issues are left out or excluded. This is the definition by Robert Entman. Framing is regarded as one of the ways by which media messages assign meanings to issues, linking them with broader environment. A frame suggests how the issue should be thought about and understood. More concisely, framing as a process has a function of shaping the way the public thinks about an issue through proposing what the issue is about and who the cause is and what is required to be done as remedies, or we can also call solutions. At the previous stages of framing theory, Goffman suggested that framing is an analytical tool, and through this tool, individuals can actively engage in the classification of certain events and interpret them and interpret the meanings of those events. Further on, after Goffman, Gamson developed this concept into a structure of the basic point of practice, providing meaning or the formation of a story with meaningful interpretation. As Goffman states, frames generate a mechanism that enables us to restore the realities in our minds, and this reality focuses on a certain frame. It is contained, whereas the other realities are excluded or left out, I have just mentioned in my previous slide. And one additional remark maybe I can add here is that news framing explores media selectively present information to influence public opinion and public interpretation. This process uses specific frames, such as emphasizing certain aspects or presenting events in a particular context. And with this angle, news framing has connection with social constructionism from social sciences. This emphasizes the social nature of reality, not the objective nature of reality. So both social constructionism and framing have common ground. Both of them point the role of language and communication in shaping our perceptions of reality. Okay, now we can have a look at the types of framing which is related to our work. Episodic and thematic approaches to news framing is a model suggested by Iyengar. Episodic framing refers to the conveying of events as isolated, one-time, discrete individual cases, and this framing focuses on personal aspects of stories. In episodic framing, the individual's experience is used for the illustration of issue most of the time. On the other hand, thematic framing addresses the broader trend or background information on the topic, which brings up the portrayal of issues through information related to systemic causes, consequences, and trends. So this is a broader aspect provided by thematic framing. And regarding the health problems coverage, thematic framing includes statistical trends, experts' opinions, contextual conditions, and reports on research related to disease prevention and treatment, as well as widespread outcomes and remedies at community level. So the results of the related literature review show that nearly all the reviewed articles were negative toward people with mental disorders, with forensic, criminalization, and victimization topics being predominant in the news. And as shown by research, there needs to be more studies to determine the situation with regard to news media portrayal of mental health. With this motivational aspect and need, our current study aims to provide information on the episodic and thematic framing approaches in the national newspapers of Turkey, so that dynamic processes underlying the frames and their development can be presented and revealed by our analysis. Okay, after this we can move on to the material and methods. As for the material and methods, the newspaper items on the themes of mental health and psychological problems, covered by 6 national daily newspapers in Turkey, printed between a 5-period year between 2014 and 2018, accessible from their electronic websites, make up the dataset of the study. And the total number of news items analyzed is 577. Media framing for our current paper involves the analysis of print news media by employing both qualitative and quantitative content analysis techniques. And the aim is to assess and describe the frames in the news. Media frames in this analysis have been treated as dependent variables to examine how different frames have been used by the newspapers so that specific issues can be presented. And it has been analyzed whether a news item has been predominantly presented episodically and thematically, which is Iyinger's concept, as I mentioned in the previous slides, forming the foundation of the content analysis of the study. The current slide shows textual news data analysis with statistical frequency measurements. Textual data signifies the systematically collected materials, and data gathering process for the analysis of text data is a methodology which provides the examination of the content, structures, and meaning of a text. In addition to content analysis mentioned in our previous slide, the methods of descriptive statistics have also been used to summarize the sample at our hand. And to this end, we use frequency distributions to measure the most frequently occurring frame types in the newspapers by the newspapers themselves and by the years of publication. And the frequency distributions were calculated based on this formula, where P refers to the percentage, F denotes the frequency, and N is the total number of respondents' frequency. P value is obtained by dividing F by N, with the result multiplied by 100. And for the analysis, we used SPSS software program. Okay, we can move on to our next slide, where we still go on with the analysis. This is the experimental results and discussion. The unit of analysis concerning the news coverage of mental health and psychological problems. About this, Table 1 shows frequency of episodic and thematic frames in the newspaper items analyzed for the purposes of the study. As can be seen from Table 1, the frequency of episodic framing corresponds to about 44%, and this value for thematic framing is 42.5%. The number of episodic frames is slightly more than the thematic frames, but it is not a big difference. It is just 1.7%. Both kinds of frames are seen in 72 of the news items analyzed, corresponding to 12.5%. And in 5 news items, it was not able to be identified as to whether there was episodic or thematic framing in the news items. And this slide shows our histogram depictions of type of framing by newspapers and publication years. The year with the highest frequency of episodic framing is 2016. And for thematic framing, the highest frequency is seen in 2018. In our analysis, it has been shown that there is no apparent upward or downward trend. So this shows that the distribution is stable statistically. And as I indicated previously, thematic frames are defined as texts with expert analysis, reports, and contextualizing information. So about expert analysis, we have a table showing the frequency of expert opinions. We see that the psychiatrist opinions are more than the others. In 99 of the newspaper items analyzed, which is 17% in percentage, we see the psychiatrists' opinions, followed by legal professionals like advocates and lawyers. And medical doctors' opinions make up or correspond to 5%, more than the psychologists and psychological counselors. We also see the opinions of scholars, academics, which is to be the lowest. So it is not indicated in this table, but we can also say that in 381 out of 577 news items, which make up 66% of the data set, there was no expert opinion included. So the majority of the news items didn't include expert opinions, although it is about psychological problems. After these analysis results and depictions, we can have a look at a few points of discussion. Previous research on news media coverage demonstrates that public health issues are generally framed episodically as individual problems which can be solved by individual action. And parallel with these findings, episodic framing is stated to be more common in the news coverage of social issues, and Western news media are observed to use episodic framing frequently while covering social problems. Regarding mental health problems, it is shown that depression has been framed thematically in Chinese newspapers compared to American newspapers more. And the results of our current study are in line with these findings. Even though the difference is not significant, episodic framing is still more statistically, so which supports the findings of previous research. One more additional note is from a World Health Organization, which posits that mental health should be integrated into primary care. With integration to be successful, mental health should be integrated into health policy and legislative frameworks with the support of ongoing governance and adequate resources. We see that when there are human interest or episodic stories, those stories grab the reader's attention. However, thematic stories are stated to be better in terms of conveying information and suggesting policy solutions to the readers. And some studies reveal that a thematic frame, including information on context, prevention strategies, risk factors, social attributions of responsibility, make readers be more supportive of public policy changes and encourage them to improve their own health behaviors as well. So it has both societal and individual aspects and effects. Regarding sources, which was also analyzed in the study, medical experts, non-medical experts, and research documents are stated to be significantly more likely to be used as sources in thematic stories than in episodic ones. And since health information is not simple to be presented and covered, journalists rely on sources for explanations if they lack adequate background. In addition, sources are used for giving perspective and balance to a news story in the building of frames and for the generation of story ideas. So overall, experts, sources, referrals are employed as important elements of responsible reporting and journalism so that unbiased and accurate news can be generated. which becomes even more important while handling health and mental health content. So this brings me to my conclusion and future directions. Media framing helps to shape our understanding of the meaning of news events, often problematically. Considering that health information is sensitive and not easy to address, it is important to build frames by giving an unbiased perspective and balance to a news items. Also, on realistic grounds, we are aware that it is not always possible to achieve this aim or this kind of accuracy because of some limitations of journalists concerning editorial policies and timing. Among these factors, journalists are encouraged to develop comprehensive news stories and reporting. This point is related to presenting news thematically within context, pointing to a broader trend over time. So in our study, we have attempted and tried to reveal episodic and thematic framing approaches in the news items covered in 6 Turkish daily newspapers over a 5-year period. These analysis can show us some future directions to think about. We can say that the results of this research can provide an extract of the portrayal of mental health related news in Turkey to point a way toward addressing news on pressing social issues like mental health in our case from a systemic perspective. And in this way, maybe understanding of how mental health issues within theoretical framework, including social constructionism and framing applications, can shed light, because we know that mental health problems and disorders affect millions of people worldwide. And if they are not treated, they may lead to permanent harm. So media can also act as a collaborator to challenge public prejudices about this. So future work can be directed to focus on nuances of framing and their effects on audiences. Applied research, in addition, can provide new directions for responsible reporting and ethical journalistic practices with more awareness and consciousness of the presentation of the issue conforming to guidelines. With these notes on future directions, I would like to conclude my presentation, in which I tried to convey our analysis, main objective, and findings of our study. These are the references we have resorted to, and thank you very much for your attention and participation.
Thank you for your paper presentation, which you provide contents on news framing approaches, which you are episodic and thematic regarding mental health news, particularly handled in the study. Does anyone have a question for the presentation and the study? Okay, I have one question. You use data, so I would like to learn, are there limitations of this study? How can you explain this so?
Yes, the time period is 5 years. Maybe this 5-year time period can be extended for future studies. Plus, we only chose 6 newspapers. Actually, they develop diversity in terms of ideology and content. Maybe this number 6 of the newspapers can be extended as well. And we also analyzed textual data, not visual data. Maybe this can be another limitation we might think about. Plus, it was print media that we analyzed. Maybe visual media can contribute more to the current research or future research.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation and answer. The last presentation of our workshop, the 2018 Brazilian presidential runoff, a complex network analysis approach using Twitter data, with the authors Juliana Cruz, Embraer and Marcos Cuellas. If you are ready, you may start, please.
Okay, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll share my screen. Just a moment. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start. So my name is Juliano Cruz. I'll present the paper entitled the 2018 Brazilian Presidential Runoff, a complex network analysis approach using Twitter data. The agenda is first I'll do a brief introduction, then I'll present the objectives. I'll explain a little bit about the abstraction model using this paper, also the preprocessing stage. Then I'll present the network features from the obtained network. Then I'll discuss the results and finally present the conclusion. So first, I'll talk about Twitter. I don't know if it's just necessary to talk about Twitter because everyone knows about Twitter, but so it's a microblogging and social networking service. You can do postings. The text message, you have maximum 2008 characters. You can post images as well and videos. And some features from this service is in the post you can use hashtags to index some sort of subject, do retweet, user mention, and it's widely used by politicians and other public figures. And about the Brazilian political polarization, it started on the 2014 with the presidential elections, and in the following 4 years, it oscillated the intensity, but reached the peak during the 2018 campaign. So in the 2018 campaign, we had a far-right candidate that was Bolsonaro and a left-wing candidate. But the far-right candidate just won the elections. And a brief introduction about the political polarization. So polarization generally means expanding extremists and diminishing moderates in a certain distribution or across an ideological spectrum. We have 3 types of polarization. So first is about elite. So it's related to political actors or political institutions. The second one is about mass polarization. So the electorate is divided regarding public issues or policies, and normally public figures are typically speaking out about their orientation. And the third one is the pernicious one. So is the merge of the prior 2 ones, the elite and the mass polarization, and it's structured in a binary division. So people feel like us versus them. So that's the feeling when we have this kind of polarization. And it tends to last longer than the event that created or triggered this polarization. Another interesting, important term just to talk about here is about echo chamber. So echo chamber, the definition is when occurs when the beliefs or concept or opinions are amplified and reinforced through repetition within a closed system. So people with the same political orientation, they are talking in a closed group, in a social network, about the same opinion. So they don't have no one from the contrary side discussing about their opinion or about the subject. So the objective about this work is to analyze the structure and the patterns of communications from the Twitter data collected, analyze the shape and features of clusters and community from the data set, identify how polarization manifests in obtained network. I'll talk on the next slide or next slides, and also detect if there are some manifestation of other political behaviors beside the extreme political opinion. That in this case is the left wing and the far right wing. Talking about the abstraction model, so as the title from the paper says, is about the Twitter data. So it was collected 1 million tweets in the second round from 2018, And the abstraction model used for processing this data is to get the Twitter and to segment the text from it into some types. There is the word can be the user or a retweet particle or a text or a hashtag. And with that, I create a network. So and I can have two kinds of relationship between these nodes. Now, so each of the words is turned into a node in a network or in a graph, and I can have the relationship that is called authorship. So I don't know if we can just. So the node here is who is writing the other words. So in this case, this word is the user who is writing the Twitter, and the relationship is it has like a direction, because the author is writing the other nodes. But in the copresence is I'm just showing that these nodes or these words, they are pinned together in the same Twitter. So we don't have the user here. So we just have the words that is inside the Twitter. So what are the advantages from this abstraction model? Considering that I'm using a graph database, I only need to have one network. So if I want just to do some exploratory search or filtering, I don't need to create thousands or like some of networks just to explore this filtering or some other metrics or etc. I just need to have one. It makes this exploration more dynamic and simpler. And the search and data processing transformation are fast, mainly because of the graph database. So the preprocessing stage is the following. So first, for each tweet, I detect language. Most of them, I'll talk in the next slide, the numbers, but most of them, they are in Portuguese. But if it's not Portuguese, I'll just translate to Portuguese, and then I do the segmentation I showed in the prior slide. Then I do stop word removal, because I don't want to have the pronouns and other words that are not useful in this case. And I do stemming, because I don't want to have, for example, variations of a verb. I just want to have the root, because that's I can extract the meaning of that on the analysis. And if I have the variation, I will have plenty of nodes that they just refer to the same stuff, but they are in different nodes. So it just doesn't help in the analysis. After stemming, I just insert it in another database just for convenience of processing. And then I'll do the extraction of the relationships as I show in the prior slide. So the authorship relationship and the co-presence relationship. And finally, I just insert it on a graph database. The final network I have, as I talked before, I used as a data set 1 million tweets from the second round. It went from October 8th from the October 27th. And about the languages I found in the tweet, about 92% were they were in Portuguese. Around 6% was in English, less than 2% Spanish, less than 0.5% in French. So after doing the preprocessing and extracting the the abstraction model, I had more or less about 407,000 nodes. Most of them, they are users, followed by stems. There is the text and the words, retweets, particles, and then hashtags. And about relationships, I after doing the pre-processing, I have more than or about 3.8 million relationships. There is the connections between the nodes. So co-presence is more than 2 million, and authorship is a little bit more than 1.5 million. More than a half from the users, they are authors, and about 50% they have only been mentioned, but they don't have written any tweet. I mean, in this data set. And only 1% of the users from this data set, they are an author and also have been mentioned. And also from the network, 30% of the nodes, they have no connection, mainly because you can have a tweet with the image or a video or hyperlink. So when I process it, it doesn't generate any words or users or hashtags. So that's because we have this kind of behavior. So in the results, the first analysis, first main analysis I did is the user mentioned. So what I did is just I just got the two most mentioned users, and also filtered the main users who mentioned them. So the most mentioned users, they are in the dark blue, red, and gray. So, and the user who mentioned is in the light blue. In the dark blue is the ones is the account from Bolsonaro itself, but also from people that are like publicly were supporting him. And that's the same case from the red. So we have for here is the candidate from the left wing, and here's Bolsonaro, and the other ones, other accounts that were supporting them. The neutral ones is the gray. So it's about newspaper accounts or some institution from the government that was mentioned by tweets. And here in this graph, you can see like a lot of clusters, but the main ones is this around the left-wing candidate, about around Bolsonaro, and there's the one in the middle. So the ones who was like orbiting the candidates, they were supporting them. This one in the middle, they were either attacking one of them and supporting the other part. The other analysis is about the head tweets. So what I did here is just to get the 20 users who have been most retweeted, is the beige nodes, the beige circles, and the main users who wrote them. There is a prior study just claiming that the users who support opposite parties or politicians hardly interact through retweets, and we can see the manifestation of that here. It doesn't mean that in all data set we don't have this happening, but just in having a look from the main ones, we can see this happening. We also did commune detection. I employed like label propagation and Louvain. With label propagation, we didn't have a very good result, because most of the nodes, about 60%, they just stayed in one community. But with Louvain, we have a very good result. In the top 30 23 communities. They account for 70% of the nodes, and the largest had like 43,000 nodes, and the smallest 84. But in the out of it, they were really small, and they didn't account for much of the remaining nodes. So talking about the results here. Here we have the top 23 communities. 9 are supporting Bolsonaro. They are pro-Bolsonaro, the right wing. 6 are pro-Haddad, and 8 are neutral. The one here, they are not from the moderate political spectrum. They are just talking about something regarding the elections, but they are not supporting or attacking any sides. Again, doing some analysis with the communities using the PageRank. PageRank is a measures of centrality of the node. So we can see in the communities, just analyzing the highest number of PageRank in the nodes, that we here the top, the smallest the community, the smallest the smallest is the number from the PageRank from the higher node, except for the 13 community, and the average shows that we have a behavior that most of them, they stay lower than 1, but we have some special cases. There are outliers about the 13 community and the community 23. I'll just go fast because I think I'm sort of delayed here. The conclusion of the study is that methodology and abstraction, they are fast and dynamic for analysis. They help a lot for doing exploratory analysis and generating metrics and etc. For the community detection, that is, as I said, the label propagation had a poor performance. Louvain had good results, which allowed us to doing the rest of the analysis with regarding community. And about polarization. So the claim from the previous work that the user who support opposite parties and politicians hard interact through retweets was also observed. Communities pro Bolsonaro, they had higher number, and higher in the total they had like more nodes as well. It wasn't find any community with a moderate political spectrum in this data set, but it's not possible to say if moderates ignore the second round election or they just support one side or another. So with that, I conclude my presentation.
Thank you for your presentation of your paper, where you address the political role of social networks shifting from simple data analysis employed to understand characteristics and desires of social groups. The social data gathered from Twitter during the second round of the 2018 Brazilian presidential election are analyzed by complex network analysis to identify hidden communication patterns, important features, and key actors within Twitter data. Are there any questions about the presentation of the paper? Okay. I may ask a question, please. What may be some possible future direction with relation to your view about inferring hypotheses from patterns and complex network analysis?
Sorry, the sound is a little bit like. Can you repeat the question?
What may be some future directions with relation to your work about inferring hypotheses from patterns and complex network analysis.
So the point is, for example, just doing a further analysis from the community. I didn't, for the sake of time, I didn't show each of the communities that we detected. So, but we could doing a deeper analysis on the communities to understand how they are, their architecture, how they are just formed, and understand this supporting communities. They are either support. I mean, they are either supporting or attacking on the candidates. How it works, how they are just formed, how many hashtags and users I mentioned, because we could also identify some fake accounts, because it really happens in the election. So I think the further direction would be that.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation and answer. Dear participants and esteemed colleagues, this brings us to the end of our workshop. While concluding our workshop, I would like to thank all the participants for their valuable contributions through their papers and presentations they have delivered. We hope to meet you all once again in our further academic events. I think we can go ahead and enjoy the remaining part, ICCSA 2024 conference in this extraordinary geography, Vietnam. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Mattia, can you hear us now? You can, yeah. We're talking now, so can you tell us if you can hear us? Hey, where's W? I type W and I get that. Okay. No? Ah, okay. 2 times. Now. Because we cannot hear you, Mattia. It shows you are unmuted. Well, we cannot hear you either. And I don't know if now you're mute, unmute. I don't know if the rest of the participants can hear us. No, I'm sorry. Okay. Because your connection shows to be very poor, so you could probably you can't hear us.
Yeah. Good video anyway.
Okay. Can the other ones hear us? Maria, Anthony, Tiago?
Yes, I'm here.
Good, thanks. So we're gonna wait a few more minutes to see if the first presenter can log in and hear us and show this video. Thank you for your patience. So Mattia, now we see you are logged in. Can you hear us now? Can you talk? Connection shows to be better. No, not anymore.
Obviously, with no exception, but colleagues told me yesterday that
Maria and Tiago, can you confirm you can hear us? We do know Anthony can. Mattia can't. So,
I mean, if anyone's able to start with their presentation, I think, otherwise we'll wait on him.
okay, we can see you, Mattia.
Ah,
But we
Okay.
cannot hear you. Now, yeah, good.
Okay.
All right.
I changed the connection with my phone, so
Okay, yeah, good. So maybe it's going to be easier if you turn off your camera, just project your screen so we can see the slides, but without your video. That
no
would probably
problem.
help. Okay.
Okay.
So Mattia, go ahead.
Just a second. Can you see the slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Go ahead.
So good morning to everyone. I'm Mattia Porta from the University of Cagliari, and I'm going to present the work Emergency Communication Protocols for Pleasure Boat using eye tracker and EEG. I've done this work with Professor Patrizia Serra and Gianfranco Pancello. And I'm going to follow this table of content during the presentation. So I start with introduction, goal of study, state of art, material and methods, experimental design, and then results and conclusion. So in maritime sector, safety, so we focus on safety, is one of the main important topics, mainly for preventing accident and for protecting lives. There are a lot of critical points to address for ensuring safe in navigation, and in this research we focus on the role of communication. In particular, during sending emergency communication, so in the role of coordinating responsive and sending, and this part, so this activity require rapid, clear, and accurate protocols to follow. On the other side, human factors such as fatigue and stress contribute significantly to maritime accident. So addressing this factor can reduce errors and enhance safety in maritime sector. In this research, we propose a multimodal approach to assess a new prototype of an innovative maritime communication protocol. This new communication protocol is based on EASIDE. EASIDE is a web-based communication, web-based protocol, so a web-based application that was developed was developed during an European project, so in an Interreg Maritimo IT France Maritime project. In this research, we analyze human factor by monitoring work cognitive load and physiological responsive. We ran a simulation of an emergency navigation scenario in a laboratory environment, requiring to a target of non-professional boat captains to exchange emergency communication with maritime authorities. So in this case is a ship-to-land communication. We used several, in particular, free electromedical devices for human factor analysis, in particular, an eye tracker to observe first glance and focus areas, an EG headset, epoch, in particular, an emotive epoch X, to gather data from cognitive loads, and a smartwatch to assess vital parameters, such as heart rate and blood pressure. Okay, the goal of these studies, are mainly free. So analyze the impact of cognitive load, specifically stress and attention during the sending of emergency communications. Evaluate the simplicity for the use of the web-based protocol EasyDep. It can be considered as a user experience analysis. And finally, assess the perceived safety of the testers in sending the emergency communication with the new protocol. Okay, several researchers highlight the relationship between human factors and maritime safety. In fact, according to the Allianz Global Corporate Specialty of 2023, 75% of maritime casualties are caused by human errors. And McCallum shows that 18% of maritime casualties are caused by communication problem. Again, Chauvin emphasized the impact of human factors on maritime safety. On the other side, IMO, in 2014, considered ICT innovation as an opportunity for improving navigation and communication system, and set guidelines for usability testing and system assessment. In order, they made this in order to focus on a new framework based on a human-centered design. Finally, several researchers use electromedical devices as EEG and e-tracker specifically to assess visual perception and cognitive stress and workload in general in simulated scenario. Okay, during this research, we used a set of material. The main material is the EasyDep communication protocol. In the right side of this slide, you can see the screen, so the first screen of the web application. And specifically in this application allow the sending and receiving information with ship-to-ship and ship-to-land. So it is possible to communicate with the near vessel or the near boat, or with the authority in the land. It is possible to send communication including free text, so you can you can use a free text, and the preset, a set of phrases following the SMCP standards. That are SMCP standards are a set of phrases studied and published by the IMO. And it is possible also to send the coordinates of the position. So it's possible to send to share the precise location information. The electromedical devices, as I said before, are mainly three. So the first one is a smartwatch that gather data of heart rate, blood pressure, and oxygen saturation. The second one is an EEG, so electroencephalogram device, a portable electroencephalogram encephalogram device. This is a emotive epoch 6 that it have a 16 high resolution sensors, and with the device it is possible to monitor cognitive parameters such as stress and attention, specifically for this research. And it has a very high accuracy rate. The third device is a Tobii Pro Nano, that is a Tobii portable eye tracker that is possible to position in the bottom of the screen. And it is useful for generate the map of gaze concentration areas, and the movement of the sequential movement of the eyes. So also it's possible to catch the first glance of the eyes when we administer a stimulus. Okay, the experimental scenario that we set up is based on a maritime simulated maritime emergency for recreational boats. So during this scenario, the engine gone fire, and during a navigational modem, during navigation. Okay, and the task that is assigned to the tester is to send a distress signal using the application. The optimum scenario is to send communication only using the preset phrases from the SMCP phrases of IMO. At the end of the last material is the questionnaire. So at the end of the experiment, we administer a questionnaire to all the testers, the participant, and we collect data for demographic data such as age, gender, nationality, and navigational experience. Information or feedback about user experience, so 8 questions based on 10-point scale, 4 questions for usability, and 4 questions for safety perception. At the end of the questionnaire, there are an open question to write some suggestion about the new protocol or the experience. The experimental process is divided in 4 phases. The first one is the device calibration. So we put all the electromedical device to the participant, specifically EEG and eye tracker. And we gather vital parameters from the initial vital parameters from the smartwatch. The second phase is the scenario administration. So we present the emergency situation and all the task instruction. And the third phase is the task performance. All the participant have to use Easy the app to send the distract signal. And at the end of the process, another vital parameter, the second vital parameter collection, and at the end the question completion. Okay, the sample is composed by 13 participants with the average age of 42 and navigational experience, average navigational experience of 18, 19 years, and is composed by 10 males and 3 females. For this research, we set up a set of key performance indicators. We can divide it in 3 main groups. So task performance, in which we measure the overall time for the completion of the task. And if the participant completed the task using in the optimus situation, in particular using only preset messages. The second group is composed by cognitive parameters. So we collect data from EEG, and this KPI is composed by the average of the stress scores and the average of attention scores, that are the two cognitive parameters that in which we focus on. And at the end, vital parameters, all the, in particular, heart rate, max pressure, and maximum blood pressure, and minimal blood pressure. Now, the results that we found in this research, first of all, we focus on the task performance results. We found that in average, all the participants, the average task time it's 3 minutes and 26 seconds. And 85% of testers accomplished the task using only preset messages. And we found that there is a time correlation in which who complete the task only with preset messages accomplish the task in a less time. Now, the cognitive parameter analysis in this group, we found that the attention score increased during all the task performance. The stress score increased continuously during the task performance, and these parameters and these scores, this result, suggest that participants involved in the task during the experimental scenario. Finally, the vital parameter results. All the parameters change, so increase during the the experimental, so during the scenario or the experimental task, and it can be considered as an ambientation, a physical ambientation in the laboratory environment. Okay, at the end, we focus on the eye gaze movement or all data from the eye tracker. So in this part, we found that we focus on the one part of the experiment, the experiment, because it is difficult to follow all the movement during the time. So we focus on a specific time, in particular the moment in which the participant found the button and send the first distress communication. In particular, in this case, is the press of the button Mayday. As we can see from this screen, majority of the testers focus on the correct Mayday button. And the sequential that we found showed that the first glance, so the first glance movement go to the right button. And to confirm the results of the e-gaze movement, we use the e-gaze heatmap to see the concentration areas in which focus the participant. Here we can see that the highest intensity is in the Mayday button, and the other parts, in particular, all the participants don't focus on other areas. Finally, the questionnaire feedback. The overall response from all participants all the participants give positive feedback, more or less, more in average, more than 8 point, the 8 point in the scale from 0 to 10. The lowest score gathered is in the question of the usability for in emergency situation. It can be caused because being an innovative communication protocol, the participant, there is a slight mistrust in using digital device or new device during this type of communication. This study has several limitations. First of all, the sample size. In fact, 13 participant doesn't have a real statistical power, and so the statistical power of this research is really weak, and the scenario is not so real as a real emergency situation. Okay, in conclusion, this multimodal approach that we use, that we proposed in this research, validate the communication protocol. In fact, we see that the preset phrases effectively reduce the message sending time, and physiological data may show an increase in concentration, and the eye tracker data confirm the intuitiveness of the model. Again, the user feedback in general was positive. All participants express a great sense of safety and confidence in descending and receiving the communication with authorities, but there are some hesitation with the innovative systems in a real situation. So for future research, is recommended to repropose this experiment to extend these findings and to reduce the variance of this. To reduce the variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Madia. I think we're running a little bit behind schedule, so if there are questions, I would like to move into the last part of the session. And now we're going to move to our next talk. The spatial multi-criteria analysis for the planning of green hydrogen infrastructure case study of the industrial area of Viggiano by Rosella Scorzelli, Shivaramani, Michela Delfino, Michela, Grazia Fattoruso, Alfonso Nunziata, and Beniamino Morgante, that will be presented by Shiva.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shiva, the PhD student in Engineering for Innovation and Sustainable Development from Italy, University of Basilicata. Today I am going to present a special multi-criteria analysis for the planning of green hydrogen infrastructure. The case study is the industrial site in Basilicata region in Italy. So just to have a general view of the presentation, first I'm going to introduce the green hydrogen main feature, advantages and disadvantages of this technology. Then we will have the methodology, which is a kind of integration between the AHP method and special analysis, which is done by JS software. And at the end, we will have the result for the case study. So regarding the production of hydrogen, that it has different color. The focus of this research is on green hydrogen because it's produced by electrolyzer that break down the molecule of water into hydrogen and oxygen. So it could be the solution for transforming the energy from the fossil fuel to clean energy. But still we are facing with some challenges, like still it has high production cost and need for specific infrastructure for production and distribution. The position of the green hydrogen in a European vision and Italian panorama, the EU aims to develop green hydrogen in 3 phases up to 2050 to achieve climate neutrality. But Italy is focused more on the pilot project, and it's going to apply the green hydrogen on the heavy industry, hard to abate, and heavy transport. For the methodology, we in first step we define some main criteria and concentrate factors, and For each of them, we define some sub categories and then calculate the weights through the AHP method. And in the other hand, in GIS software, we create a map, and we did a special analysis for each sub-criteria, and then overlay the map, and then we reach the land suitability map that shows us the optimal site of green hydrogen infrastructure. The case study is in Viggiano area in Basilicata. It's an important industrial area with a presence of the oil platform, which is one of the most important in Europe. And it's raw oil fed to the plant, undergoes all treatment necessary, and then it's sent to the oil, and it's separated into the oil, the gas, and the water. The oil is sent to any oil company, and the gas go to the SNAM network. And the waters, that's called processed water, undergo treatment that consists of separation of the associated gas and the oiling. Partly of this water injected to the well. In line with the Blue Water project, which involved the construction of the plant for treatment of wastewater produced in this area. For this work, we consider it as an opportunity for electrolyzer process, just to make the project more sustainable. So this is the study area. The industrial site is located in the Viggiano, and to have a comprehensive study, we considered all the close municipality of this area, for later to consider the supply side and distribution phase of the study. This is the first step of the special analysis that we try to exclude all the area that we already know it's impossible to implement the green hydrogen infrastructure that are and the area that are protected by law, the prohibited area, and the urban areas. And the rest area which remain are the free area that we could do the analysis, and all the special analysis are based on this map. So the main group of the criteria are technical, economic, and environmental. For the technical, we have two subcategories, the slope and solar radiation. For the economic, we consider proximity of roads, distance of the industry side, distance of renewable energy sources, and proximity of the thermal power grid. And for the last criteria, we consider ecosystem services. And then by doing the pairwise matrix, we calculate the weight for each of them, and in the last column we have their weight. And because each map has a different unit, we normalize them and define, reclass them again in 5 different classes, from high to low classes, which high means highly suitable areas, and the low class is area with low suitability. This is the first slope that shows the area close to the industrial site has a high suitability, so it could be an opportunity for this study. And the next one is solar radiation, because for us it's important to produce this hydrogen from the clean energy. So for the solar panel, we calculate the solar radiation, and we did it based on the DEM 5 meter. The proximity to roads is we did it by the plugin in QGIS that it's an isochronic distance that because it was important for us the fastest way to transport the hydrogen to the demanding sites. So it's evaluation of also for the distance from the industrial site, we did the same. We did it with the same tool. Also, in this case, the time was the issue. So, but for the other proximity, we did it by the near tool in GIS, and the distance from the renewable energy sources shows that again the area close to the industrial site has a high suitability for the area. Distance from the electricity network, same tools. And the ecosystem services, for that we consider habitat quality, carbon, crop production, and carbon stock. And then we evaluated its expert-based. The expert decided for that which areas are more important because ecosystem services has the direct benefit on human well-being. So we consider that because for us it was important the sustainability of the project. And this is the final result by overlaying all the maps. And it shows that most of the area are a medium or mediumly low suitable for implementing the green hydrogen infrastructure. So to conclude, in the results show that the vicinity of the industrial site, there is a highly suitable area for placement of green hydrogen infrastructure, and adaptation of the vehicle fleet in the industrial area with fuel cell truck would guarantee the elimination of a carbon dioxide emission currently equal to over 5.6 million kilogram per year. And for the future perspective, we need the pilot project and immediate action. And thank you for your attention.
Good. Thank you. Are there any questions from the audience or online? Anyone? Okay. Well, if there are no questions, we'll move on to the next one. So we have. Okay. So the next presentation is CLIMA Info Information Visualization Dashboard for Climatological and Environmental Data by Camila Maria Cunha Aguiar, Roberto Juli da Silva Franco, Divino Vicente Silverio, Tiago Araujo, Eduardo Queiroz Marquez, and Yankee Sedike Meigins. And it's going to be presented by Tiago. Via Zoom. Please go ahead, Tiago. Mute. Tiago, are you there? Can you hear us? Can you hear us now? We cannot hear you because you're on mute. Let's see if you can. Oh no, you're twice on the meeting. But we can. Okay, one left. Okay, you're there. Can you hear us, Diego? Maybe you. He doesn't hear us. So maybe you can try.
Check with Maria.
Can Anthony or Maria hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Are you
Okay.
talking with me? But I won't do the presentation. The presentation will be done by my colleague and co-author, Antonio Minervino Amodio.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we're just trying to see if the rest of the participants can hear us. Thank you.
Okay.
So Tiago, can you hear us now? Because we cannot.
Okay.
Right. So if you can share your screen, if you want to open up your camera, that's good. The floor is yours. Thank you. We can see you, but we cannot hear you.
Any problem with the mic?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
No, okay.
Great. Cool. Thanks. Go ahead. Yeah, we heard you are mute again. We cannot hear you or see you. So you want to try again?
how much it is in land.
So, Tiago, we're gonna try to see if Antonio is ready to present. In the meantime, you can try to fix your problems, and if you're able to do it, we'll change your presentation afterwards. Okay?
No problem.
Okay.
Okay. So, Antonio, you ready?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, our next presentation, we're gonna switch these presentations, and this one now is past, present, and climate change scenarios investigating erosion risk on archaeological heritage in the Sini Valley, Basilicata, Italy. From Antonio Minervino Amodio, Maria Danese, and Dario Gioia. Please, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. We see my screen? Okay.
Nope.
Yes, looks good. Right, there you are.
Yep.
Thank you, the chair, for the presentation. I'm Antonio Minervino Amodio, and I'm in National Research Council of Italy. And the title of this presentation is Past, Present, and Climate Change Scenario, Investigated Erosion Risk on Archaeological Heritage in the Sini Valley, is in southern Italy. This is the organization of the presentation. In the first part, we will focus on the objective and the issue and the problem related to how natural phenomena and climate change can put cultural heritage at risk. And in the second part, we will analyze the methods used and the result obtained from this study. In the context of conservation of cultural heritage, a critical factor is the complex interaction between the archaeological sites and the environment. Consequently, implication for the territory deriving from climate change and the increased vulnerability of archaeological heritage became a topic of primary importance. And generally, a fragile territory subject to natural hazard is a threat also for cultural heritage because it favors the destruction of the cultural identity represented by individual landscape, the removal of the archaeological traces and findings in area not yet investigated, and the damage to cultural heritage exposed to source of risk. In particular, climate change contribute to increase hazard by different impact. For example, sea level rise, flooding, erosion along the coast, temperature change in the air and in the sea, variation in humidity, harsh weathering, modification for the condition of the soil and sediment, and land degradation or desertification. Between all these, in this paper, we focus on erosion and how climate change can affect it, and consequently cultural heritage. The objective of our study was study the evolution of erosion in the Sini Valley in southern Italy in the last 30 years, and how it will evolve in the future by considering the effect of climate change. To do this, we generated the erosion scenario using the USPED model, and we identify three classes of sites characterized by different vulnerability level. The ultimate goal was to highlight area most subject to erosion with vulnerability for archaeological heritage, and it is useful for planning and programming aimed at risk conservation and mitigation for the cultural heritage. To do this, two different methods were used. The first one on spatial analysis, and the second one, and the second on soil erosion model. To determine the vulnerability area, two spatial analysis methods were used. The first nearest neighbor method are the most common distance based method, and provide information on the interaction between the an events and the local level. By calculating these three indices, it is possible to understand whether events are randomly distributed or clustered in the space. While kernel density estimation uses a three-dimensional moving function to weight event according to their distance from the point where the intensity is estimated. Kernel density estimation is commonly used for in statistical context to obtain uniform univariate or multivariate probability density estimation. The second method used is the USPED model, unit stream power based erosion deposition model, for different years. And for the scenario of climate change, we use the same land uses of this year, the 2203 year, and we change we simulate the extreme event in the rainfall series. The USPED model was created with an assumption that erosion and deposition are principally dependent from the sediment transport capacity. In particular, we use this equation where A is the annual average soil loss, R is the rainfall factor, K is the soil erodibility factor, LS is the topographic factor, C is the land cover factor, and P is the soil conservation or prevention practice factor. The study area is the Sydney Valley. The Sydney Valley is a region located in the southern part of the Basilicata region. Basilicata region is in the southern Italy. And the entire valley is crossed by a Sydney River, and the Sydney River largely traverses the southern Apennine from west to east. And the Sydney Valley is a region rich in history and archaeological sites that testify human occupation since ancient time. Overall, in the study area, there are 1,014 sites. And for what concerns the vulnerability of the study area, different classes was identified. The first one is minimum protection priority classes. The second is classes with medium protection. And the last is classes with high protection priority. With the purpose to estimating erosion in the past, in the present, under a future scenario, The first step consisted in computing at risk area. Consequently, the three classes of site characterized by a different vulnerability level were investigated by kernel density estimation and nearest neighbor in order to obtain this vulnerability area. It emerged that the site with the minimum vulnerability have a random distribution, while sites with medium and maximum vulnerability have a clustered distribution. For the USPED model, we created a different model for different years, and we have the same classification for example, for the C factor. We use 8 land uses classes, in particular urban, industrial, and commercial area, arable land, fruit tree, vineyard, and olive groves, pastures and natural grassland, forest area, and water. For the rainfall intensity factor, we calculate taking in account the last 20 years for 21 stations. And the soil erodibility factor, key, was derived from lithological information, while the LS factor, topographic factor, was derived from a digital elevation model with a 5 meter of resolution. And for the climate change scenario, we modified the rainfall series, but keeping into account the same annual cumulative rainfall. For example, 1,000 millimeters for years, but we concentrating the rainfall in more extreme events. The USPED map for the 5 distinct years, we obtain these 3 levels of vulnerability. This is the minimum level of vulnerability. This is medium level of vulnerability, and this is the maximum level of vulnerability. The results show 2 different behaviors. For the first 2 years, in 1919 and 2000, for example, the value for the stable class is, for example, for the maximum vulnerability, is 28,500, and these which are significantly lower than the value of the other years. This trend is similar for the other 2 vulnerability classes. Okay, the different behaviors of the 2 set is due to probably for 2 different reasons. The first one is the nature of the input data in the USPED model, and the second is the change in the land uses over the time. The first difference derives from a different nature of the input data in the C factor calculation. In fact, for these years, we use the core inland cover dataset. This is a smaller scale, therefore a greater degree of uncertainty. while for other years, the dataset, the input data, have a better resolution and consequently have a better representation of reality. The second reason that cause this difference in the dataset probably is the change in the land uses over the time. In Southern Italy, we have an increasing tendency for the inland area to be abandoned, which an uncontrolled growing of vegetation. This results in a soil protection effect that trend to decrease on erosion and soil deposition. Finally, we can see the climate change scenario has a higher erosion value. This due to the increase of extreme events. In conclusion, climate change may amplify cultural heritage exposure to climatic stressor. Cultural heritage can be severely impacted by different causes by, for example, landslide, flooding, rising area level, and other. And this methodology was primarily focused on assessing the spatial extent and intensity of soil loss and deposition. And the USPED empirical model was built by integrating a set of erosion influencing parameters, and is a flexible, it is model physical erosion process in agile settings. This USPED map for a different period considered very intersected with the vulnerability map. As shown in the result, there is a different behavior on the area under erosion and deposition for different years, considering the various degree of vulnerability. In conclusion, this paper show how the USPED model is greatly affected by difference in the input data, in our cases land uses, and how climate change has a fundamental role in the amount of soil erosion deposition that is very dangerous for the conservation of the archaeological sites, in our cases in the Sydney Valley. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Are there any questions from the audience, virtual or in person? No questions? Okay. Well, for now, thank you, Antonio. Tiago, can you hear us now? Can you share your screen? Are you able to present?
Okay, I'm here and I am able to present.
Perfect.
Just a moment.
Okay, so this presentation is ClimaInfo, Information Visualization Dashboard for Climatological and Environmental Data. It's going to be presented by Tiago Araujo. Please.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I am Tiago. I'll be presenting today this work. It's a combination of works by 3 institutions, 2 in Pará, Brazil, and 1 in Portugal. So right now, climate influences decision-making in the field of agriculture and public policies. It is very important in the northern region of Brazil, as it has a field that's ready for agriculture and ready for agronomy, ready for the creation of counts of cows, and everything that the land produces is kind of prosperous in the northern region of the country. But in Brazil, we are kind of hostile of the weather, the climate, as it is near the equator line, so it's kind of behaves erratically. So we need to count with weather stations or remote sensing. Some of these um, problems related to farmlands are very sensitive to the weather or climate. So fast decision making is important to our economy, to our well-being as the country in general. So this orange square is the state of Pará. Here we can see that compared with the rest of the country, we have less stations. They can be automatic, conventional, or automatic rain gauges. In our case, we have the only in the urban areas, as the most of the Pará is uninhabited. We have only virgin forests and acres and acres of land that we had not used it yet. So we do not have a way to analyze these with only weather stations. We rely a lot on the satellite data. We rely a lot on the satellite images to convey, to try to forecast weather. And our objectives with this work right now, being this diversification main motivation, is to develop a visualization tool facilitate the access, representation, and interpretation of climatological and environmental data. In this first step, we want to see data in a way that we can use it to make some small decisions. We want this first step to be something that we can rely on the data from satellites or weather stations. Present a dashboard with detailed information. This is the main challenge of the work. Develop visualization tools in 2024 is relatively easy. We only need a web page, but to present a dashboard for an expert to make a decision, this is very hard till today. Offer the possibility to download data, as many of these experts already have their tools, their specialized tools, their workflows. We don't want to bind one to our tool, as it is prejudicial in the long term. We want our tool, our prototype, our service to be able to present data, to work with data, but as soon you get to a point that you can work in your own workflow as an expert, you want to give this opportunity to the expert. And I contribute to filling existing data gaps in the state of Pará. And this one is a country bonus, as one can say. We do not have extensive coverage in Pará of the data in the climate, weather. So we can hope that our efforts can lead to improvements in weather research or in more government action in weather stations or public actions in the general sense. We have in one of the universities that are partners of the project a close relationship with local government municipalities, so we can try to use the project as a forefront to try to mitigate some of these problems. So the project also serves as a flag to try to gather more data about climate not only the technological way, but also in the hands of the politicians to put the problem where we can solve it. So for now, the background is we are using for it is information visualization to see the visualization, the data, so we can have interactive techniques, we can have a myriad of visual mappings, visual encodings that we can use to see what's happening. And climatology, that's the study of the climate. So we can have access to the data of the climate in the country of Brazil. We have many works about climate, but the ones that we found that were more influential are these three: Climate Chart, Project Visual Toolbox, and IPCC WGI Interactive Atlas. All of them are a variation of what we're doing in a more global scale. We are doing it locally. I'm sorry. The middle one, Project Visual Toolbox, is in Brazil also, but all of them have some features that we use, like using the tree, the feedback in the climate changes, and visualization by time period. So for now, what was our methodology to develop this visualization tool, and what we are going to do really in the work? We have data about many features of the weather and temperature, precipitation, slope, and elevation. Each one of these data is recovered from a satellite, so from a type of satellite with this range of dates. The temperature varying from 1965 to 2022, and precipitation from 1981 to 2022. Slope and elevation do not change in this time period, so it's not worth it to get more information than the present right now. So with the remote sensing, we get information from satellites, and the weather station, we get information from the public agencies. INMET, Purpleware, Metos Brazil, there are agents that aggregate data about weather in this weather station, being then automatic or the classic traditional ones. And, and we join it in a single database. Using this data, we have a preparation model that does a pre-process of the data. We need some clarifications, mainly because the data are very different between the satellites and the weather stations. So there's a lot of work to combine these things in a way that we can search by municipality and by the time. We have a visual representation model with choroplast maps, bars, timeline, and modified bars, and an interaction model that we want to harness the power of interaction. So we want a real-time rendering, generate views based on what the user wants to see, and we want the control for the user. In the first step, it's only by time and municipality, that the ones that we found are the more important in the step. And this is all these steps are controlled by the user, the end users. And we have the requirements I won't telling in the now, but the main one is we need the data from the state of divided by the time, monthly and annual right now, and we need the ability to filter data by time and municipality. Right now, this data is the one that I present: precipitation, temperature, elevation, and slope. We developed in Python. We need it to be responsive and have high usability. And this usability is based on the feedback we did with some users that I will explain soon enough. Right now, Climate Info, it's our tool, has this initial screen And we have in the top bar the filters applied with the time, and we have some charts, the map one with the state of Pará, inclination, elevation, precipitation, and temperature in highlight here. So we have the real-time updating of the tool. We can select a single municipality in the map, and we will update the charts, and we can use the slider ranger to select a time period. Right now it's by month and year. This is a more specialized view of the month of the year of the tools. I'm sorry. It's the aggregation of data. We had some concerns in our first interview with experts that we need some form of aggregation. So we develop it in the form of these bar charts that highlight minimum, maximum, and average for each municipality too. And a choropleth map to highlight in this one temperature. It highlights temperature based on the slider range. So we can choose a range of the dates, and the map updates automatically with using the highest temperature registered in this range for each municipality. So in this evaluation, how do we do the evaluation with the end users? We do a presentation of the tool, a presentation of the terms and conditions for the participation, a small training session, identification of the participant, execution of the test, execution of the usability questionnaire, and the final feedback that's more general. We have 4 tasks. The first one to analyze precipitation temperature data over time. The second one to identify periods of lower precipitation. And the third one, they could recognize municipalities, represent visualization. And the last one, it's more of a process of adjusting time windows when necessary to the slider ranges are not exactly easy to use. The ones we have only one knob are very common, but the ones we have 2 knobs are not very easy to use, as they are not present in many day-to-day interaction with some users. Information visualization tools, they are very common, but outside this, they are not very used. So we had a special task to this particular kind of interaction. And we have the tools to extract our participants' opinion about the climate info tool. About these questions are standardized. If people like to use, they would use it frequently. If it's complex, if it requires assistance, if the functions in our case of the map are integrated, if it's necessary to learn new things before being able to use the tool effectively. So it's measure usability. In a general term, it's a standardized test, so we are very confident in using it. We had 3 groups. The first group, the group 1, it's the one we call all. It's not a good name, but it's the best one that we could hope. It had 31 participants, aged 21 to 35 years old. And the education level, it's incomplete undergraduate degree until the doctorate. It was the group that made the most contribution. They had a SUS score of 8. It's a high score. We can see aquí a high percentage of hits and low percentage of errors. In question 7 being the one that had the most negative errors. The group 2 of the students consist of 14 participants, all very young too, incomplete undergraduate degree, complete high school, and the score of A minus. That's kind of high too, as we expected, but they were more, as we can see, they had more hits, and in the errors are more prominent, so they are more used to the tools of the visualization being used in Excel or other tools. A digital life more present in a general sense. So they can identify some things better, and they can discuss things a little bit better of who we want of this stage of the tool for the feedback. And the third one is the expert, 13 participants, all doctors, and score A plus. As we can see, and we can expect less errors as they are experts. They were not only using the tool, they were searching for features. They were probing the limits what they could do. So they got more hits and less errors as they were not really interested in the in right or wrong, but to experiment with a lot of things. And as one I can expect, if you experiment a lot with a tool, get better at it, so you get less errors. So what is this question 7? Question 7 was a question about the slide ranges as we expected. So it was to define a certain interval. We give a result based on the bar chart. We can see all the questions in the paper. It was not worth it to bring it all here, sadly. So for the score, we can see here in general, it has a high level usability, a high level of usability. So it's acceptable to use right now, but we have a lot of room for improvement as we were expecting, especially in this task with higher error rates. Question 7, 6, 8 that are part of the end tasks of manipulation of time and municipalities at the same time. Doing a lot of things can lead to errors is basically the problem right now. And so to end the presentation, we need right now for the next step of this tool to enhance interactivity. We have partners working on the next version of the tool. Right now we can see what we are planning. We can contribute with more visual encodings to work more closely with the pairing of many visual encodings throughout many views, in redesign some parts of the interface that were not clear. We lacked legends for some things. We lacked labels for some interactions. We did not have a manual in the tool, so we did not could get all the we got feedback, but we did not get all the details that we wanted from this first test, that we were lacking in some features. So right now we are working on a new version of it and a way to export and import new data like farmland data, as we discussed in the beginning. So for now, I end this presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tiago. Are there any questions from the audience, virtual or physical?
I would like to have a remark.
Can we?
Oh, yes.
Just like that, right? No, hold on. I'll turn it around.
Okay.
No.
Oh, yeah.
There.
Okay. Tiago, thank you for your presentations. My question is regarding to the map visualization. You showed us choropleth maps, correct?
Correct.
And these choropleth maps, as far as I got it, for instance, yes, you show temperatures. But
Yes.
this choropleth maps shows that temperature is recorded, as you were mentioning, at points, stations,
Yes.
localized. But you showed them for areas. And this is a problem in perception, because over the area that you depicted with the same maximum temperature, the temperature, as is obvious, varies a lot. So I would advise to skip the choropleth maps and use isoline maps instead, because you have the stations and you interpolate the data between the stations, and you can put the borders of the administrative areas across them, and then you can relate the development of temperatures over an area in a given time and communicate that to the users. Okay, that was my comment.
Okay, I want to add on this. We were aware of the problem of the choropleth, as it is really a problem with if we had more stations by if we have a more dense state of stations in the state, we could try to use choropleth with more detail. We do not have. We are very sparse. We are searching for an alternative. In this one of the isolines is the priority right now. We are working on an interactive presentation of this, and as with any development, the web is buggy right now. It's not ready in any way, but we are trying something like this, and now I'll get this node to interpolate data to try a better representation. I thank you for this comment.
Thank you, Tiago.
Anything else, Shiva? Someone from the audience? Yeah, on the topic of the, can you pull up the bar chart that you showed of maximum and minimum temperature? Let me just make it larger here. So both charts are a little bit misleading because you are using columns to show minimum and maximum and the average, but it's not very easy to understand what the larger or the top column means. I do understand that the line is the average temperature for that, what, the date? Is the date? It's very small, so I can't read it, but is it a day? Per day?
Yes, it's the date.
And it's not very easy to understand what are the columns. Like the maximum reaches, well, it's this, so for precipitation, it goes from 400 to 1,000, maybe? I don't know. I can really see it, but it's not very clear what that means. And probably you would be better off representing this chart as a line chart, because then you would be able to follow the evolution of minimum and maximum precipitation with lines through time together with the average. So basically you would have the average, and then you will have envelopes up and above and below that average, right?
Yes.
So that would probably be better.
Yeah. For now, we already we have this version. We can see.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is a new chart. It was the second most requested feature to convert it to a line chart. The first round of interview with experts, they say they prefer to see the difference between minimum and maximum and see the average separated. We got it all together, but we got it in bars as we could see the difference. But right now we can use the lines and give it an interval. It's no problem using shading or something like that. So we are go for it, and this will help us with comparisons too. Right now it works like it's here, maximum, minimum, and the average. But for one single municipality, we want to be able to compare municipalities, each line a municipality with shading and this difference. So we are working on trying to get this more appropriate representation.
Yeah. Okay. Now, on the subject of this one, it would be advisable to use or be careful on how many points you're using, because you have a lot of dates at the bottom, but you have just a very sparse number of bullets in your chart. So that would be not so easy to understand probably.
Yes,
And
it's a problem that we are facing right now. We are trying to get this map visualization tool to be better. We have 143 municipalities in Pará. We want to try to a hierarchy of regions and a hierarchy of dates to try to get six months, year by year, or a decade interval. We want to get this interactivity in the hierarchical level the better possible. So we are working the new version to try to mitigate these problems, not in the visual way, but in the data pre-processing way.
yeah. Okay. And also, I think it would be important for you to clearly define. I don't think you mentioned it in your presentation. I don't know in the paper, but it seems like you're trying to cater for a very wide audience of users, from students to PhDs and maybe officers of the state or the municipality. And it is very difficult to use the same tool for all those different types of users. And you cannot expect a person with the very basic level of education to want to do the same things or understand the same things as an official, whether he or she has a graduate degree or not. Most likely a student, a basic education student, won't be willing or wanting to download the data or do any sort of analysis. But a person that works with that data in the state or the municipality is probably going to be more interested in that. So it would be advisable for you to sort of maybe create different modules for different types of users. Some will be available for everyone, and some others will be just for registered users or a different level of permissions or admissions.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, we are facing this persona problem right now. We did the first evaluation more broader, as we want to test the general capabilities. Right now we are going to focus. We are choosing a specific use case, and I hope we can get it right in the next text.
Great. Awesome. Well, are there any other questions from the audience here or there? No more remarks? Antonio, Maria, or our fellow Jeter?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. Well, no more questions or comments. I thank you very much for being part of this first session of the YOG and Mod 2024, and we'll continue with this one tomorrow. So thank you. Bye.